Hello and welcome to Out of State DMing podcast. I'm your host, lluksblackheart. Thank you for joining us on episode 64. Last week we had some power problems, so we weren't able to do it, but so far this week looks good, so yay! Uh, my co host, excuse me, should be joining here soonish. They had a few things they had to take care of. But we're going to nonetheless still go into talking about the spells. There's lesser planar binding was what we partially covered last week. So we're going to start off with the 5th level summon monster, which works again just like the rest, but it's a 5th level list instead of the 4th. Then we have possibly one of the best spells you could get a hold of, teleport. You instantly transport you as far as 100 miles per caster level, which is really, really great because what it does is it takes practically any and all travel and circumvents it entirely, especially when you're a decent level. And since you're going to be like 9th, maybe 10th level when you get this spell, that's like 9 or 1000 miles you can go, which is really, really far. Anyone who does anything for traveling knows that being able to instantaneously get somewhere relatively quickly is really, really good because it saves you so much time and headache. Like, for instance, the standard map distance for the Greyhawk map is like every one of the hexes on it is 64 miles. So traveling anywhere takes a while. Even if you're doing like the walking pace was like 3 miles an hour, or using a horse was 6 miles an hour, it still relatively takes quite a bit of time to get anywhere. And that's not racing to get there. That's just doing the normal walking speed of travel, so that way you're not like exhausted by the time you get there. So being able to look at your party and go, hey, I can teleport X amount of people, which is usually like a one person per caster level, or you substitute like a couple people for a larger creature. So once you get a certain point, you can transport the entire party and their mounts. The only problem you have to worry about is the more familiar with the location you are, the easier it is to get there because there's a legit roll you have to make to properly get there. I can't remember the specifics of the roll, but it's like one of those things that if you're not very familiar, if this is your first time going there, you know next to nothing about the spot other than it's a location, you can end up being off by a few hundred feet to a few thousand feet. You can accidentally teleport into something, which means you get shoved out of it, which so you and everyone around you can take a lot of damage and or be separated because like you teleport in a wall, you're not all going to go in the exact same direction. So some of you can go be shoved in the other one room, the rest of the other, and like so forth. Because well, you teleported into something because you can't occupy the same space, so it kind of just nudges you out. So you can end up hurting everyone. So it's generally good to be as familiar as possible with the location before you actually teleport to the location. Uh, yeah, brain's not wanting to work. But it's still really, really good because that's over a hex and a half per caster level. And again, you're like 9th or 10th level, so let's just go with 10th level when you get this spell. That's equivalent of 10 hexes you're traveling. Well, is it equivalent? No. Brain's not working. Does 6, it turns into 100 times 10, let's just put a 0 on it. 640 hexes. Yeah, you're actually exceeding that. So you can go quite a distance in that world. And even if your DM changes the hex size, or some maps don't use hexes, they use inches. So rather not, the DM wants to make the world smaller by like going a 10-mile hex, which makes travel super easy and almost makes teleportation not necessarily as needed, because traveling your full travel time, which is just walking, is 24 miles. That's 2.5 hexes right there of traveling, so you don't necessarily need it unless you're trying to buy time. Or if they make it bigger, like, oh, here's 100 miles per hex, you're like, well, that's 10 hexes I travel because I'm level 10, I cast this, boom. So you're saving the party lots of time because you're not doing it. And a lot of DMs do consider this a not necessarily super great spell because it circumvents encounters, it circumvents planned endeavors. So, like, if you're trying to go from this city to this castle here, the game master has all this stuff set up for ambushes, things to partially distract the party, like all these random things to possibly get the party XP, equipment, or just add to the ambiance of the campaign. One teleport takes that all away. For instance, one of the last big campaigns I ran, the party was having problems getting through places because it not only was fast distances they have to travel, they had to travel through a forest, which means they're cutting their movement speed in half, so they're taking forever to get anywhere. But once one party member got access to teleportation, he shortcut so many things because they're like, oh, we need to get here, teleport. Oh, we need to get here, teleport. Oh, we need to go there, teleport. And there's no real way to take that away from the party. There's the moment you start going, oh, for some reason this doesn't work, you start causing ripple effects. It is easier to countermand certain types of spells because for some reason that particular thing, boom. But when it comes to teleportation in any of its formats, unless the place has something barring teleportation, like Dimensional Acre, Dimensional Lock, there's no real way to do it without making it seem like you're trying to force the party in a direction or something like that. And the only real downside is less encounters, therefore less XP, and less loot. And there's no chance of you party randomly discovering some random thing that could possibly make the campaign a little bit more richer and or just get them something super unique and cool because they're just circumventing this entire thing. But it's still a good spell despite the fact that you can circumvent the DM's plans. The next, Wallstone. I personally love Wallstone. It's a neat spell. It creates a permanent wall. All you need is some form of stone, like a rock. Yeah, pretty much a rock, some sort of plate thing of made out of stone that you just throw in the ground, and it pretty much grows from that little thing. And if you're high enough level, you can create a relatively decently sized wall. Another reason I like it is when it comes to world building and or just trying to take care of certain things, a character could use Stonewall to create the raw resources needed to create particular things, and then run around with a stone shape and morph it, alter it, and change it to create buildings. a little bit more better battlements. So you can literally get away with cheap means of building things and a rapid mean of building things. There's a normal like stone castle or something like that would take a very long time to build because it's not something that's super easy. But with stone wall coupled with stone shape, it's done at a fraction of the time because you're not transporting the stone. Wall of stone gives it to you. You can use wall stone to at least at certain angles do a perimeter or at least have it overlap in certain areas zigzag wise, so that way when you go through stone shape, this you don't have to do excess movement to get the stone to actually where you want to be. It's already there, you just have to shape it in the way you want. It's good for also stopping enemies from escaping or giving the party a means to escape because here's a wall between you and the bad guy. So it has lots of uses. You cannot have it appear in the same space that's being occupied as another creature. So you can't use it to knock a creature down, nudge a creature, thing there because it won't form there. But you can use it to still entrap a creature, enclose a creature, whatnot. So still really good. Next spell is Contact Other Plane. It's another one of those I'm going to ask a question things. Does it let you ask questions of exoplanar entities? Most people use it to get a direct answer from their gods. Or if they know, like, hey, this is an exoplanar creature, we know we know pretty much a title or a name, so we're going to cast a spell and direct it at that. The fine details are covered by the spell itself, but it's pretty much in layman's the party hasn't come up with anything, can't answer anything, so the smartest idea they have is to use this, and so it's a means for the DM to sneak in the party getting the answers they want and or need. Good. Then we have Prying Eyes. I love this spell because you pretty much roll die 4, add your level to it, and you get a bunch of floating eyes that go out and scout for you. You have to touch it to see what it's seen, but you can set certain perimeters, like go out to this time. I mean, go out as far as you can to this time, and then once you hit it, come back because they have a duration to them. So if let's say it lasts like 10 minutes, you can go 5 minutes that way, and then come 5 minutes back. So that way, by the time it gets to you, you touch it, you now know what it's seen. So you can go, is there anything over there we need concern about? Or you can have it, hey, go here, and when this trigger happens, like a certain monster shows up in the area, or a monster shows up, period, or it notices something happened there, come back so it can see. You can. Another thing is, it does not do audio, it only does visual. So it's like looking through a camera, well, a security camera. You're not picking up noise, but you're just able to still see. It's like, okay, voila, see that. But it's real good to just quickly scout out an area. Just that's the point of it. So it's a really good spell there. Then we have Rory's Telepathic Bond. This spell is really, really great because when you cast it, you link with your allies' minds. So when you're communicating back and forth, no one can eavesdrop in. They have to read your minds in order to do it. But it's still just, yay, we're going to mentally talk. So you can do almost near instantaneous communication with everyone. So it's one of those neat loopholes. Next we got Dominate Person, which lets you control a humanoid telepathically. It's kind of like a bigger version of Charm. like last longer, and they can do stuff. They still can't do like stealth harm, and to a certain degree, there's triggers that can happen to help it break the dominance, but it's generally one of the more harder spells to break. It's one of the things that vampires would use to control people, to get people to do things they normally wouldn't do. So it's just real good to just turn an enemy to a temporary ally. And just like with the other things there, it doesn't affect undead or constructs because it's a mental effect. You can't dominate something that either does not have a mind or is considered immune to things, which also means something with like the vermin trait. They're considered mindless, so bam. So there's still certain things that aren't affected by it, but so many other things you can look at and go, oh, you're a humanoid, you're a person, your mind is mine. So it doesn't work on egg animals or anything that doesn't fall under the premise of the spell, which when we get to specific things for the spell, we can cover that. Here's another good one, Feeble Mind. This is good because you can use it as an ultimate debuff to really, really mess over your enemy, unless it already has stats that are in that area. But what it does is the subject's intelligence and charisma drops to literally 1, which is pretty much borderline unplayable if it's another player. But what it does is any wizards that get hit with Feeble Mind can't cast any of their spells, because you need at minimum a 10 to cast 0 level spells, and for every spell level you go above that, your score needs to pretty much be that plus 10. Same with sorcerers. Sorcerers need to rely on their charisma to actually get their spells off. So any of those do, or technically bards because they also use charisma. So there's a certain classes that just can't access their magic because they've been hit with Feeble Mind. Then there's the fact that if you Feeble Mind like a druid, it's now going to be horrible with animals because it's not taking them negative with its wild empathy. Clerics and paladins are having problems with their turn undead because the number of times a day they get to use it is 3 plus their whatever their charisma is. If their charisma is a minus, it goes down. It's like to like a minimum of 1. But when they do the check to see how potent their turning is, they rely on their charisma as one of the key bonuses for it. So if you don't want someone to be really effective against undead, you look at them and you Feeble Mind them. Also, the paladin relies on his charisma for his lay on hands, so you can literally strip their ability to heal with that effect by just taking away their charisma, because it's like their level times their charisma modifier or something like that is pretty much how good of a healing they get. So by not having a charisma score to speak of, you kind of just take that from them. So it's neat if you're trying to overcome the big bad guy or something like that, but detrimental when the bad guy starts flinging that around at everyone else. Because at minimum, it's a DC 15 will saving throw to resist, so low level characters are going to have a problem with it. High level characters are going to be better, but they're still going to suffer the slight chance of, hey, if I fail, I'm losing this stuff here. It's also, in my personal experience, it's one of the spells that can and will cause people to get up and walk away from the table. The amount of people who are like, we're gonna win this fight, they fail the will saving throw, their character just got hit with Feeble Mind, now they can't do any of this fancy stuff over there. what do? They throw their dice on the table, pick up their shit, and leave because the DM just get the unspeakable thing and crippled their character permanently. It's like, no, it's not permanent. It's fully recoverable. At minimum, the heal spell takes care of it. At minimum. At maximum, natural recovery through days or some of the other spells that help fix it. It's not a permanently lasting thing, and it's like someone casts it into a ring of permanency and then slips it on your finger or something like that. Your character, you can't recover from it. But I've seen multiple people just utterly drop out of campaigns because their character was hit with it, despite the fact that they're one of the people that would easily press to go, if you don't take feeble mind, you're not doing it right. It's like the same people who will argue that fireball is the ultimate spell to get, and it's the only spell you should really be casting for third level spells. When it's like, one, there's other spells, and two, just because it's a good spell doesn't mean it's the only spell. So it can be quite easy to get people to rage quit. Then we have Hold Monster. It does the same as Hold Person, but it works on pretty much any creature, with the exception of those that are immune to mental effects. So, constructs, undead, and vermin look at it and smile and go, ha, it didn't work. Everything else is pretty much on the table. So it's really good to, I don't want to deal with you, bam. The next spell, Mind Fog, is it's a great spell if you want to try to get other debuffs on a target. This is subject. Subjects in fog get -10 to wisdom and will checks, meaning they go to make a will saving throw, a -10 gets thrown on top of it. So therefore, like spells like Feeble Mind will work a lot better because they're already taking that there. Hold Monster would work better on it. So pretty much any of the make a will saving throw against this spell really helps, but it's again subjects in fog, so you can end up affecting yourself and or allies. And because it affects wisdom checks, such as spot or listen, they have a hard time seeing or hearing while in that fog because again you're taking a -10 to both those things there. So it is a pretty good debuff. Then we have Symbol of Sleep. Trigger Rune puts nearby creatures into catatonic slumber, which is pretty much you can manhandle them a little bit better than normal sleep. But it's a good thing that we want to kidnap this person here, so let's do this there. Or if we put this on this door here, when someone goes to break in, they'll see the symbol, trigger the symbol, and now they're going to sleep. So you can use it for a bundle of different things. When it comes to players, they usually use this to either horrendously trick each other's, because, well, if you're in a catatonic slumber, you don't know who's rummaging through your stuff to take stuff from you. Or if they want to leave a party member behind because they don't really like the player and or the character, they use this to do it. And they use it less to defeat monsters or deter monsters or anything like that, and more on each other's. And it is one of those spells that if you use it on the players, you kind of risk having some sort of rage come from them. And this is from personal experience, from as a DM and a player, seeing it happen to people, of them getting pissy and upset because they failed a will saving throw. Their character's in a deep slumber, and they get snagged by the enemy, and or they wake up X amount of time later with all of their crap gone. People can and will rage over this spell. The next spell is Bigby's Interposing Hand. It's pretty much a big hand that forms that provides cover against one opponent. So it's pretty much that guy right there. I cast the spell. Now I get cover when that guy tries to do anything against me. So anything that cover applies to, you now benefit from if that person does it. Like attack rolls, some spells, because cover can help with those things. Then we got another one of the ones I like, Cone of Cold. It's a 30-foot cone emanating from your hand, and it does a die 6 per level of cold damage. So this, are we? Yeah. So it is. It's still a really good spell, even though some people, again, probably going to bring a spell up a lot, will go, well, Fireball's better. Fireball's better because you can lunge it farther away. This spell I like a lot more because it's, hey, whoever's in front of me, here's a cold version of a flamethrower. Well, I mean, flamethrower is technically more of a line, while this is a cone. It's still very much a, here's this, boom, here. If you happen to be in that area, you're taking cold damage. So it's a close quarter spell, but it's still up to 10, max of 10 die 6 cold damage is still really great. So, like, despite what some people may or may not say, Cone of Cold. Then we have the all-impressive Sending. This delivers a short message anywhere instantly. Even though it says anywhere, it still has its limits. When we hit that spell itself, we'll go over those limits, but still, it has its minor limits. But it's also a really good, I want entity blah to get this spell. To get this information. Bam! It has that information. So it's really good. It's better than message. Because it's doesn't have the same limitations as message, and it can go technically farther. Then we have Wall of Force. Wall of Force has a limited duration to it. I think it's like 1 round per caster level. It's pretty much immune to every form of damage, so you can trap an entity, protect yourselves, do it. So as long as it lasts, it's an impenetrable, invisible wall. So unless there's something obviously showing that, hey, there's something there, things can run into it, and you can protect yourself against pretty much anything. So unless something can materialize on the other side of it, you're protected from everything on that side. It can be made permanent with the permanency spell, but it's then about where you place it that makes it important at that point. Then we have Dream, which sends message to anyone sleeping. Some people may go, well, they're sending, that's better. Well, if they're asleep, they're not getting the message. They're asleep. So therefore, they can't actually react or anything on it because they're asleep, while Dream is, hey, they're asleep. They get this message in their dream. So now they can try to wake up, or when they do wake up, no one's really going to suspect that they got something because, well, this person can cast Sending. That's the spell we were told to watch out for this person casting. The only times, though, I've seen this spell be used was with players trying to mess with other players. Not warn them that something's trying to sneak up on them or quietly try to do anything to just alert other party members. No, to try to give each other's nightmares and other stupid things because, well, I'll say this, most likely said this before, I'll say it again, there is such a thing as a toxic player, and this is one of the spells those players can and will try to use to torment other players simply because, well, they can. Then there's false vision, full scrying with an illusion. This is one of the spells that I've never actually seen used outside of people assuming that they're being scryed upon. Kind of like detect scrying. I've never seen it used when the party's actually going to be being scrying. It's always when we're so important, we're being scryed on. So here's false vision. It's like, we're not that important. We didn't do anything to make anyone scry on us. So it's like you're not really doing anything. And they cast it thinking that, of course, we're being scryed upon. That's why we took the spell. That's why we're casting it. This we need protection. And then at the end of the day, it's like no one was scrying you. Because the DM is not obligated to automatically make things happen simply because you cast certain spells that either make them aware it's happening and or to counter it. If you assume you're being scrying and you cast a spell to alert and or fool it, if the DM's currently not having a bad guy do it, you're wasting a spell, basically. Because, like I said, with detect scrying, when it's being used, no one's scrying. And then it's not used when you probably should be using it. It's like, hey, why are we suddenly always being found by these bad guys? Why do they always know what we're up to? Why do they always be where we're going? It's like, why? It's like, oh, we're probably being scryed upon. Them, no, we're not. Not because we're not important enough to be scryed upon. And they look at you like you're an asshole because, like, in a previous game session, like, why are you wasting spells when we're not important enough? It's like, it's because at that time, we weren't important enough. Now, we're conveniently always 1 to 2 steps behind the bad guy, like they know our plans. The only way they know our plans is if they're scrying. Or someone's a mole. So let's not use it when it should be used, because obviously there's something wrong. Let's just use it when we simply just have access to it. It gets, I'm beating a dead horse with this, but it gets slightly silly after a while. Next spell is Mirage Arcana. It's a hallucinatory terrain plus structures. So like hallucinatory terrain, you can alter the appearance of a natural surroundings. This is that, but also you can make building look like there's buildings and stuff too. So a better, stronger illusion. Then we got the actual spell Nightmare. Sends visions, dealing die 10 damage and making the target fatigue. Therefore, yeah, they take some damage and they're fatigued, so they're not getting restful sleep. So if it's a spellcaster, they're not getting spells back because, hey, look, not restful sleeping. So you're denying them spells. This spell is another spell that I've only seen used from players casting it on other players. Not on bad guys, not on monsters. Despite opportunities to do it, it's one of those, I don't like how he talked to me today. Nightmare. The next spell is Persistent Image. It's as major image, but no concentration requirements. So instead of concentrating on the image, it kind of just goes until it fizzles out. So it's another good illusion spell. Then we got Seeming. It changes appearance of one person per 2 levels. So the higher level you are, the more people you can affect with the spell. So you can alter and change their appearances to suit that particular desire, while they want to or not. Then we got Shadow Evocation. It mimics evocations below 5th level, but only 20% real. So you have to pretty much look at 4th level and lower evocation spells and go, hey, we're going to do that evocation, but it's only 20% real, so it's not going to have the same exact effects unless someone falls for it. More details when we cover the spell itself, but it's still an okay spell. But it's one of those, why use a 5th level spell to cast a possibly weaker version of a low level spell that's an evocation spell only. They try to go, well, I want to cast more than just evocations, like it's evocation only. And they want to, well, I want to cast a 5th level spell. It's like, why not just have that spell? It's because they want to have options of switching spells. It's like, no, it has to be below 5th level, and it has to be evocation. So if you don't like that, don't take the spell. It is definitely one of those, if you're not liking what's happening with your spells, don't take that spell. The next spell is Blight. It withers 1 plant or deals a die 6 per cast level, max of 10, to 1 plant creature. So you can use it to just start killing plants off, or if like a tree folk shows up, you can go, hey, you're a plant. Take this damage. So it's really good against nature. It's also one of those spells that, unless the campaign specifically has plant creatures as a constant reoccurring threat, not just a random encounter, but like there's an army of evil tree folks going around destroying and killing stuff, and that's at stake, something like that, no one actually takes the spell. And I'm not even kidding. The amount of people I've seen with the spell, I can count with one hand. In my almost 30 years of playing, yeah, it's not a common spell to take, because it's, to a lot of people, too specific. Because what are the odds of you fighting a plant creature unless it's a reoccurring threat for that section of the campaign? Then we got Magic Jar. It enables possession of another creature. This is not necessarily a bad spell, but it is a spell that I've only ever actually seen players use on other players, because they don't believe that that player's playing their character right, so they're going to use a spell to play their character for them, and or just to get rid of that character, because toxic players. The next spell is Symbol of Pain. When triggered, it wrecks nearby creatures with pain. It's kind of like, how do we want to cripple people? Well, Symbol of Pain. It triggers, they now collapse in agonizing pain. The exact detail is covered by the spell specific itself. Then we got Wave of Fatigue. Several targets become fatigued. A lot of people think that this is just a waste of a spell, because what's the point? There's other 5th level spells you can take that are far more effective, and the only good thing is, yay, they take penalties to certain die rolls now that they're fatigued. To me, if we're trying to escape, they're not going to be able to go as long or as far as the rest of the party trying to escape, because, well, they're fatigued. So it can make it easier to get that longer distance. But a lot of people don't see it as an effective debuff spell, even though it's like, you're fatigued, so you're taking like a -2 to attack rolls, a -2 to skill checks. I believe fatigue also hits several other things, but still, it's like, okay, they're not passing their skill checks as much, and they're taking a minus to their attack rolls. How is that not bad? They're hitting less, and it affects multiple targets, so it's like, make it make sense. Then we got animal growth, where you take one animal per 2 levels and you pretty much you double their size. It's pretty much enlarged person, but for animals. So that medium-sized riding dog the halfling has is now a large-sized riding dog. So it's pretty much, you want to ride a horse, halfling? Voila! Your dog is now pretty much the size of a horse. Oh, your brown bear animal companion druid? Bam! Now it's pretty much the same size as a dire bear. So even though it's not necessarily a super long lasting spell, it's still I'm going to take this animal and I'm going to buff it. Because, well, it's needed for combat or it's needed for something where it needs to be bigger in order to get the job done. There's the spell for it. Next spell, and this is a spell that a lot of people either assume or think that it's higher level, is Baleful Polymorph. It transforms the subject into a harmless animal. So literally, hey, look, you're just a little harmless frog or a tiny little, excuse me, rodent, something. It's pretty much, you're harmless. It's not able to do any attack damage. It doesn't have any poisons, toxins, or anything. It says, hey, look, it's a harmless critter. A lot of people out there also assume that because it has polymorph in it, you can willfully, gleefully turn people into specific things, and they ignore the harmless aspect of the spell, and they're like, I'm gonna turn this party member to a poison dart frog so he can go poison the enemy. It's like, frog, yes, but it's a harmless one. I've literally seen entire arguments take place because people want to ignore aspects of a spell because, well, they think that they're right despite what the spell specifically says. It's a harmless animal. Not a deadly animal, not a if you touch it you're going to die animal or anything like that. It's a harmless animal. Something that can do no harm. So that people will argue that because, well, I've been present for it more than once and been on the receiving end. It's also a spell that can have people walk away from the table because the bad guy goes, I might lose this fight. I have this spell. Baleful Polymorph. On that guy, the guy that's actually the biggest threat to me at the moment. Well, did I just remove the barbarian from this entire fight? Yes. Barbarian leaves because he doesn't like the fact that, well, spells exist and enemies get to use them too. I've also seen this spell be used on party member A, but party member D walks up and leaves because he thinks it's unfair and the bad guy shouldn't be able to cast any spells that can directly or indirectly remove a party member from play in any format. And that also includes high damaging spells that have the possibility of rendering someone unconscious due to too much damage. Yes, those people exist. Yes, I've had to deal with them. They're annoying. The next spell is Fabricate. This is a good spell because it transforms raw materials into finished items. So you can pretty much take raw resources such as like metal and some leather, and you can use it to make fast track swords. You can make armor out of it, shields, other randomest things, not magical things, of course, but mundane things. The limits on for fabricate are fall under the spell itself, but it's still a really good spell to rapidly and efficiently get what the party may or may not need in a relatively short time, because instead of going all this way to rebuy things, you can go, well, we have this raw material here. I'm going to use this spell to turn the raw material into what we need. Like if you have the stuff to make a rope, well, who needs to buy a rope? I'm going to use this on this stuff here. Now we have a rope. We need new tents, or backpacks, or bedrolls, clothing. Fabricate. You can literally go, here's the raw resources. Bam, now we have it. I'm probably oversimplifying the spell a little bit, but it's still a great pull out your butt. We have what we need now. It doesn't help with like food or water, because you can't create food with the spell or alter food, because it has to be an actual piece of like equipment, not something consumable. But still, really, really good to have. The next spell is Overland Flight. You can fly at a speed of 40 feet and can hustle over long distances. This is one of the spells that, even though there's the spell Fly that goes for 60 feet, this spell, if memory serves, lasts a wee bit longer, but a lot of people don't take it because they don't really see the point of flying 40 when there's a spell that gives them a fly to 60. Even though this is a more of a we're not going to teleport to the location, but we want to get to the location relatively quickly and safely as possible. Well, here's a spell that's pretty much designed to cover long distances. So let's all use Overland Flight. Because, well, you don't have to worry about terrain penalties to speed when you're going over it. Next, we have Pass Wall. Create passages through wood or stone walls. This is pretty much great because if you're trying to get through a dungeon and you know, there's a room over here. Pass wall. Now you have a new door. You can go into that room, circumventing that there. Even if it's like, here's a wooden building we need to get into. Well, pass wall. Now there's a door there. Well, not necessarily a door, but an open pathway for you to get in and out. So you can get in and out of a building for as long as the spell's in play to get access to things that normally you would have to risk getting caught by guards or do other things to get into. It's a simple, a Washitov, we're in. Next, we have Telekinesis. Move objects, attack creatures, or hurl objects or creatures. This is pretty good because it is I want to get people from point A to point B safely. So, hey, don't resist my telekinesis. Moving you across this distance here. Or bringing items to you. Technically, you can use it on enemy targets as long as they fail the saving throw. You can pick them up and hurl them. You can technically rip doors off hinges as long as you pass all the proper checks. So you can use it as a combat spell. Unlike like mage hands or any of those things there that let you do other things, telekinesis doesn't let you deliver touch spells. It's I'm going to use this spell to touch you and put you far away from me, closer to me, or fling you up in the distance. The spell does have its own limitations on stuff like that, but it's still a very potent, powerful spell. One of my key things of you shouldn't fight certain creatures in certain environments was there was a ruined city with a area being protected by a beholder. The party fought it. I was trying to be fair and have it randomized stock being used instead of Pacific, because if you're being Pacific, it's going to like disintegrate everyone it comes across. So I randomly rolled telekinesis. Player lost the saving throw, and he got flung at an angle, not like 900 feet away. And it was like it went up and then down. So that player got taken out of commission because, well, fall damage is a thing, and being flung 900 feet away in 6 seconds pretty much does mean you're going relatively far, because that's like 90 miles an hour, excuse me, give or take a few miles in 6 seconds. So it's like just flat out insane how far he went in a short time period. So in certain circumstances, it's a diabolical spell. Next, we have transmute mud to rock. Transforms 2 10-foot cubes per level of mud into rock. So if there's a muddy landscape due to heavy rainfall or something like that, and it's legit mud, you can go, hey, rock. Now instead of having a slippery, muddy surface, you're now fighting on rock. There's also transmute rock to mud. So if you're, I wouldn't use it in a dungeon because, well, if you cast it on the wrong spots, you're causing a cave-in that could, kill the entire party. But it's pretty much, you're in a heavily rocky area, and you're like, okay, well, these rock stuff here is now mud, so you can create hindering terrain for enemies, and if it's enough mud is formed, you can possibly trap them in it, and then go, hey, now that they're stuck in mud, I'm going to do mud to rock. So now they're more stuck because the mud around them turns into rock. So they have to now fight that and us. So used correctly by a mildly intelligent individual, you can circumvent so many problems. You can also look at like a castle wall or a city wall and go, rock to mud. And suddenly you're collapsing a huge section of the wall, or at minimum, the mud kind of just flops and stops to the ground, and there's a hole in the ground. So it's like, yay, we can get in through this way. The very last spell we're going to cover today is permanency. Makes certain spells permanent. Now, I say certain spells because the spell does tell you what spells it can make permanent. Despite what a lot of people think. Does the general thinking of making things permanent is people going, this spell has a duration, therefore it can be made permanent. Regardless of the duration, it can be made permanent. That's what they think. The spell itself, permanency, goes, no, if it's not these spells, it cannot be made permanency. Here's your restrictions on these spells on making them permanent. It is one of the spells that you can easily get into an argument with multiple people, because again, they are under the impression and conclusion that any spell with a duration can become permanent. That's not the case, though. It's only certain spells. It takes XP to do it. So, if you don't have the XP to spend, you can't really make it permanent, and it's one of the things that you need to be careful and watch out for, because you can end up going to XP deficit because you spent too many skill points trying to make something permanent, and you end up biting yourself in the butt. So it is kind of important to pay attention to the little things. That being said, I'm going to draw today's episode to a close. I would like to thank anyone who sees this, and please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week for more out of state DMing.